BattleBit has sold nearly 2 million copies in 2 weeks, and when you consider the fact that this game was made by 3 people, that is an incredibly impressive feat and should be celebrated as a huge success for indie games. And if we break down the numbers a bit, those 3 people are now absolutely laughing. In a recent interview with howtomarketagame.com, the developers revealed that since they launched, they'd sold 1.8 million units. If we assume that most of these sales are from the basic copy of the game at $15, that's a total of $27 million. Take off Steam's cut of around 30%, which is 8.1 million, and you're left with $19 million. Yeah, of course they're going to have server costs, taxes, and any other operating costs too, but the point is that that is a lot of money for a small indie team to generate shortly after the launch of their game. And fair play to the developers too. It might be easy to overlook BattleBit as an overnight success, but this game has actually been in development since 2016, and the story of how it all came together is quite remarkable, and we're taking a look at that now. The same interview revealed some incredible details about this game, starting off 7 years ago when BattleBit announced the game was coming to Steam Greenlight. Taking a look at the original screenshot here, you can see that the vision remained the same throughout the project. Once an early build of the game was ready to go, players could sign up for free and test the game. Only 20 to 30 players at a time, however, to begin, handpicked from a player base of users that had experience with mods developed by the same guys in the past. The devs then used analytics and heat map data from these playtests to assess where the problems were and how to fix them, acting on the information gathered accordingly and listening to core player feedback. Over the next few years, progress continued on the game. It was steadily growing, and content creators began to join the playtests, and most of the time, they were in fact allowed to record and create videos and streams from these sessions. Word of mouth and recommendations started to spread, and interest for the game was rapidly accelerating. However, in the interview, Sergeant Okidoki, one of the devs on the game, admitted that there was a mismatch between the marketing and game design. Early on, the game really played like a hardcore shooter, more suited to the milsim crowd, but the graphics didn't line up with those expectations. He said the following: "They have an assumption about your game, and if the screenshots don't match the gameplay, you have a problem. Our game played like Squad, but looked like Roblox. That was a terrible move. We had to make a decision. We had to pull back and make the game more open for arcade. It wasn't a decision that I enjoyed, but I had to do it. It turned out it was a good decision." He continues, "We were doing playtests every Saturday, and then through the playtests, people would post in the Discord saying I like this or I don't like this. And we could tell from the new people who joined the Discord, they had a different set of questions more similar to a more casual audience. So some concessions were made, and certain elements of the game were toned down to make them more accessible to casual players who might prefer elements of Battlefield and COD rather than armor. As Okidoki said though, it was the right call for the game, and the interview states that in 2020, when the BattleBit Patreon launched, the team was generating $23,000 per month from that alone in support of development. And to add, they actually managed to hit a technical milestone not long after that, when they finally got 100 simultaneous players working in a multiplayer game together. If you've played the game for yourself, you'll know that that value has now swelled to 254 players maximum per match, which is insane really if you think about it, considering how well everything works. Skip to January 2022 and popularity exploded. The BattleBit follower chart here on SteamDB demonstrating how excitement, word of mouth and playtests began to ramp up and amplify the reach of the game. I personally remember playing in some of the betas in the last couple of years, and there was always a massive amount of interest from my viewers and in the FPS community when a test was ongoing. And then we get to today. How to Market a Game say in their blog that hundreds and thousands of people were wishlisting the game on Steam, and Valve actually promised them a featured pop-up on Steam, usually reserved for games that convert well after they release, but it looks like Valve was so sure about BattleBit selling like hotcakes that they went ahead and did the pop-up before launch day, which in itself is impressive, and I'm not actually sure how often that happens on Steam. The article ends with a quote from Okidoki that I think is very revealing, and we'll dive into it a bit too. "If you're planning to make a multiplayer game, don't. I'm not gonna lie, don't. Make a single player game if this is your first game. It is very trying. If you are going to, accept that you're going to be slammed by a hammer." So making this game was really difficult. Yet despite all of this, those 3 BattleBit developers succeeded by working hard, taking their time, playtesting a lot, listening to feedback and acting on it, and focusing on a gap in the market. If you think about it, BattleBit is simply delivering on what a lot of AAA multiplayer FPS games haven't delivered on in recent times, and bundling it all in one package. Many of the cool features in this game used to be in Battlefield, and yes, while the gameplay is different to modern Battlefield in some respects, for example the bleeding mechanic, no auto healing, super fast time to kill, etc., much of the gameplay in BattleBit is derived from classic games in the Battlefield franchise that has been lost throughout the years. Some examples are bigger squad sizes, a large amount of destructible environments, proper classes with class-specific guns and gadgets, an enhanced focus on team play, grapple hooks, a server browser for the main game, and a detailed scoreboard, to name a few. On top of that, they've thrown in many modern gameplay mechanics too, blending a bit of Battlefield, Squad and Call of Duty together. Things such as tight gunplay that's easy to pick up, a progression system for the guns with camos to unlock, and customization that gives you detailed stats as to what impact each attachment will have on your weapon. Proximity chat too, that can lead to some great team play moments. It can lead to emergent narrative, hilarious situations, and even chatting with enemies if you're close enough to them. And get this, you can drag down players into safety, a mechanic that was canned from Battlefield 5 before launch. Of course, BattleBit doesn't look anywhere near as good in terms of graphical fidelity and realism compared to Battlefield or COD. But as I've talked about before, when you start playing this game and appreciating the gameplay, you just kind of forget about the graphics and enjoy the ride, instead getting lost in those fun and chaotic moments. BattleBit isn't trying to be the most realistic looking game, it doesn't forget that it's a game. Also, visibility is great and it runs on potato PCs too, which has undeniably widened its potential player base. Ultimately, this game has a lot of bang for buck. At $15 for the basic version, it is great value for multiplayer shooter fans, packed full of features offering fun gameplay with friends, and the developers have pledged to support it going forward with new guns, gear, maps, game modes and more. And you know what? Fair play to those 3 developers too. Congratulations to them, as I said at the start. It took them 7 years to get here. They continued to build the game and they didn't rush it out the door to make some quick money only for it to die within a few weeks. And $27 million plus more later on, they have made it. And as an indie title, this is a huge success in the games industry. I feel like there's a lot of lessons to be learned here, not only for other indie devs trying to build successful games and how to go about doing that, etc., but also for the humongous AAA publishers too, with millions of dollars and manpower to spend. More often than not, gameplay, features and value are much more important to the customer than the graphics are. And with that said, do let me know your thoughts on BattleBit down in the comments below. I've also linked the How to Market a Game article too if you want to check that out, as it's got some great reading there. Thanks for watching, drop me a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.